Everybody can hear the music this time. I was really slow in my setup, making sure all the buttons were hit. We are week 20 of What Did Prince Do This Week?
Hey, you know, when we come on, sometimes I'm just waiting on that moment. You know, like when people don't know they're on the live mic, so you get live. And I told the mother, hey, how everybody doing? That's it.
Sometimes we be having those conversations. No, we're not like that. All right, let's see who's in the house. We got Anna B first in the chat. It's not just another Saturday, but it's our fun day. I love that, Anna B. Love that. I love that. All right. We even got Ricky joining us on time. That's what I'm talking about.
It's because I got to leave early, but, you know, hey.
It's going to be one way or the other.
Rick, I'm holding the stereotype. I'll be early because I got to go.
Hey, look, got to pick one struggle. Can't have both.
Later, that reminds me, I ain't gonna tell you that. Remind me the joke about the jazz musician who got the job and the guy didn't want to hire the jazz musician because jazz musicians was known for showing up late and missing gigs. And so the dude showed up every day for practice. And he changed his mind. He said, "Man, I thought because you was a jazz musician, you was gonna be terrible and trifling, but you showed up every day and you was one of the best people." The jazz musician said, "I appreciate that. Just so you know, I'm gonna miss the gig this Saturday." So
Larry.
Oh my God. We have Cassandra from the ATL. Can't wait for the show to start. Prayers up for my hometown, St. Louis. So much devastation. I don't know what's going on. Tell us what's happening in St. Louis. And then we have Chanel here. Wow, you're joining us in real time. Really appreciate that, Chanel. Thank you so much. We got Andre, what up, though, from Detroit, if you don't know.
Up, Andre?
And we got Sister Charles.
Everybody?
And we got Nick Belden from Denver. We got Jared Dances from working today, so we'll be listening more than chatting. That's okay, but you here, that's right. And we got...
Where are you working at, Ray? On Saturday.
We got LTK in the house.
So I guess, was it a tornado in St. Louis?
Was it?
Really?
Oh, I didn't hear about it. And we got EA with the happy Saturday to you all. Love that. And yes, Chanel, thank you so much. Please hit the like button to help out with the algorithms. Really appreciate that. We got Lee Christian. Hello.
What's up, brother Christian?
Hello. You're missing the fourth hello, Lee Christian. But we're so happy that you are here.
One day, Lee, you got to come on here on camera for all the ruckus. You gotta come on camera, man.
Gonna make brother Lee come on camera. That's right.
Yes, and we got Kim, our timekeeper. We got our timekeeper here today. We got TP in the house. We got Man Ray 10 in the house. We got Tanja all through the night.
What up, Tanja?
Promise to see Adria at the ATL Saturday night. And we got all right, 1, 2, 3 is Wow, episode 1, 2, 3. And we got Kyle Christian, we got Purple Cat Confetti, we got Ronald Dagley Jr., Marilyn in the house, we got Slick Rick. That's what we got. Ricky Love in the chat.
Yeah.
We got Chris Bournet, we got Mira, and okay, looks like half of the Pump Council from Willie Dynamite.
Boy, not Willie Dynamite.
What you know about Willie Dynamite?
What you know about that, boy? That's a classic.
Oh my God. Purple Morning People, Blade Brown. We got El DeBar. We got D68A. And Lee Christian said for once, they are really ahead on the reading, like a week from now ahead. That's what I'm talking about, Lee Christian. Let people know they need to do their reading. That's right. And we have Mike Fay from England. Welcome, Mike. I don't know if you've ever joined us live, but if you have,
Mike.
But thank you so much for being
Top of the morning, mate.
Mike.
That's right. And we have Zuzu's Petals, who also has finally made it in person. Yay. So welcome, Zuzu's Petals.
Zuzu's. I like that name.
Yeah, it's a cool name. And we got Lady Cab Driver with What It Is. Didn't you have like a quantum Lady Cab Driver realm thing this week?
You know what? For so long, I thought that was Lady Cat Driver. My bad, lady cab driver. I thought that was lady cat driver.
I did. I'm trying to remember. It was Lady Cab Driver or something was the B-side. Oh, The Love Bazaar. You gotta go way deep into the quantum realm, sort of out of time, but
Okay.
The Love Bazaar would have been an interesting B-side to Lady Cab Driver. If you can imagine living in a world where those songs were like the singles, that's the Prince Unleashed. That's a whole other Prince. But go ahead.
Now you're racking my brain. What Irresistible B was the B-side to what?
Let's
pretend we're married.
Let's pretend we're married. Yeah.
Okay. There we go. That's right. Let's go.
All right. One of my it's probably, I mean, in real time, I was blown away by Irresistible B. Just the start of it. And then I remember distinctly playing it from my Uncle Charles. Y'all remember my Uncle Charles? He wowed it out. He thought it was the most amazing thing. And I remember exactly, I can see him like dancing to it. It was like really incredible.
Oh, and speaking of your Uncle Charles, Prof. Duff.
Yeah.
I done found some empirical information so that Brother D can no longer call me and you country.
Okay.
We be on here talking about our experiences, and Brother D be looking at it, look like, if this ain't the country stuff. and so I got us some empirical information. Remember we was talking about the fishnets on the ceiling and the album covers, and Brother D was looking like, ooh, this didn't go way deep country. Well, you know what? I want you, Exhibit A, the song Reflection from Musicology.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. Fishnets and stockings, yeah. On
that's
the
right. Fishnets and fishnets and posters all over the wall.
Yeah.
So
you saying Prince was country too?
They had fishnets with albums.
Well, Michael, his dad was from New Orleans.
There you go.
There you go. All right. And let's see. Chris Bournet said, I listened to Tina Turner's version of Let's Pretend We're Married this morning.
Oh, wow.
Needless to say, she changed some lyrics. That's right. All right. Oh, got some.
That's an interesting song to cover,
The
though.
Christian Teacher's Pet.
Yeah. It is a very interesting song to cover. I love me some Tina. I actually have Tina Turner all over my walls in my home, but I don't know about Let's Pretend We're Married.
Yes, y'all do. Y'all know why she covered that song.
Why?
It's rock and roll.
Yeah.
That's true.
And remember, that was her thing, right? That was her, and not to get out, but that she wanted upbeat, she wanted tempo, she wanted rock. She always felt like that the songs with Ike always drag. So when I heard her, when I heard that cover, like y'all, I was like, oh, okay, rock and roll. So that's I think that it was the fact that she saw that as some more rock and roll stuff she could do.
When did that come out?
Ooh,
82, 83.
Yeah.
So that's the fact that you could be Tina Turner, who was, the damn near icon, and you would go to in 82, 83, you doing a Prince cover, and it's not like as a lead song or something. So I don't know, it just speaks to the power of how Prince was in their heads. You know what I mean? Like Chaka Khan had to go, you know what I mean? Like he's just coming out and they already covering him. You won't never see nothing like that.
And you know what, Brother Dean? You're right. And this is something I always say, that what happens is I think people mess up the timeline. Because whenever people mention Mike and Prince, they'll go Michael Jackson, Thriller, Prince, Purple Rain. That's not the right timeline. The song, if you want to do it that way, the album with which Prince battled Thriller was 1999.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that if we remember in real time, to me, this is how it felt to me. It felt that everybody had this one kind of notion that, yes, Mike has become the king of pop. But that motherfucker crippled that 1999. I mean, yes, this is gonna get the awards and this, but this motherfucker here with this 1999, like it was like to put it in the sports, like people was like, that 1999 is a problem. So and I really don't think that 1999 gets the love it deserves.
That's right.
So actually, it put some heat on Thriller.
Yeah.
And that's why I think the timeline is important. That people forget that Prince was like with 1999. I know Purple Rain made him this thing, but 1999 was putting heat on Prince. I mean, on Thriller in a way that people don't give it credit. I'll shut up.
You don't need to shut up because people need to hear about that.
I think it's the thing that 1999 is so strong. It's only an album like a Thriller that could sweep that out of the way.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, it just goes to show they were just at such a height. The quality level of what they were doing was so ridiculous. Like, only the best things could survive in that world. I mean, the absolute best.
I mean, everyone has to have a nemesis. You know what I'm saying? Somebody kind of go against.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, like Black Panther has Killmonger. Depending
Right.
on how you look at it, you know what I'm saying? Mike could have been Prince's Killmonger or vice versa. But I think one, like C. said, I think you have the both of them helped each other. Because if you were a Mike fan, which a lot of people were then, it was kind of like, yeah, Mike is cool, but guess what? This other guy is killing it too. You know what I'm saying? And then, same thing, because I believe 1999 came out first. You were like, man, Prince's new album is dope. You heard this 1999, and then whoa, man, wait till you hear what Mike did on Thriller.
Right.
And then the wall comes.
Right.
Let him have this year, goddamn. I got something next year.
Yeah, and so like I think they both helped each other.
Yeah.
Because I mean, Prince being the bad boy, Mike was the clean cut, safer option, for a lot of people in terms of what their kids listen to.
This is funny, Blade Brown. Oh my God. Yes, that's right. Arthur did say the moonwalk at Motown 25.
Yeah, that's stopped.
It did. Everybody was at the bus stop that next morning. Everybody at the bus stop trying to do the moonwalk.
Yeah, it was over. Let me go get my girl.
Old socks on their hand like gloves, trying to sew rhinestones.
Go get my penny loafers.
Oh my God.
My pants was already high water, so I'm good.
Hey, look, I can honestly say I had no curl and I had no glove or loafers. I was a team not dressing like Mike.
I was doing it hard for you. I was representing for you.
I do. That's a good point about Rick James. A year before with Street Songs, I think that people forget that Street Songs is that's one of those albums. I still play Street Songs from beginning to end. That's one hell of a record.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
All right.
So, I think this is a good question. Did people create? I think that people created the rivalry. I don't. Yep. Yeah. I mean, at least at my school, it was for sure.
Yeah.
All right.
I mean, it's sold magazines. I mean, it's so
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
It's everything.
I mean, it's sold
it was
magazines.
It was our Drake and Kendrick. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Without the foolishness.
Yeah. All right. So someone put in the chat, I can't remember who, that the Tina's version was 84, but it might actually be 85 because I'm looking at Discogs and I'm seeing nothing but 85.
I think it was on was it on the Private Dancer record?
No, it actually was.
It wasn't?
I think it was like a B-side.
Okay.
I think it was a B-side. I Can't Stand the Rain, which was an amazing song.
Yeah.
But it's not actually on the record. So it was a B-side.
Right.
And it's a live version too, which is kind of cool.
Oh.
All right. So I know Kim has already given us 2 time checks. So let's get this party.
2 flags already.
Yes.
We're in foul trouble.
All right. We're going week to week, not date to date. You can follow a detailed schedule at this bit.ly link and QR code. You do not need the paperback version, but that's the one that's the most updated. That's right. Yeah. Ricky, what's going on with you? You don't have your book today?
Oh, yeah, I got it right here.
Okay. All right. I was about to say, go leave early and not have your book too. Just like, really? Okay. These will be archived at Polished Solid as well as at MD. Please subscribe, like, and help spread the word and the algorithms. So please hit that like button. Take a second just right now. Hit that like button. We're trying to spread the good word the good book about Prince. So help me do that. All right. And we have the hashtag WDPDTW and the estate of Prince Rogers Nelson is not affiliated, associated, or connected with the What Did Prince Do This Week book club series. This is an independent endeavor. In our community guidelines, we choose to be a community even when we disagree, and we disagree a lot, and that is okay. That's right. All right. We were playing Overnight Every Night, which is actually a bonus cut on the CD. If you got the album, it ain't on there. So you got to have the CD to get this particular song, which was
Boy, so the CDs had bonuses.
That's right. We had composed. You had to get some kind of way for people to rebuy the CD when they already got the vinyl. So we got Eric Leeds on tenor and baritone saxophone, synthesizers, Atlanta Bliss on trumpets, Prince on the piano and organ, Leviticus on bass, and Sheila E on drums, mixed by Eric Leeds. And then
was that the song that's the dun, 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 dun.
yes,
Yeah.
What's the other song that this become later on though? He uses this in the later wasn't it?
Say it again.
They do this in a like in the Rainbow
Time
Era Prince. What's the song that does that?
Is it the
I know somebody in the comment knows what I'm talking about.
Is it the Sign of the Times movie?
No, is it Expectation or something like that?
Oh, it might be
Later Prince. He does.
Oh, okay.
The song has that. Da, 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 da. He does it over or something and releases it in a different title. I can't think of the name.
Come on, chat. Come to the rescue. Yeah, come on, chat. Come to the rescue.
Xenophobia?
Might be from that. I can't recall.
What you say, Michael? I didn't hear you.
Is it the song Xenophobia or something?
It might be.
It's not on news, is it?
Here we go. Yes.
There you go.
Xenophobic.
It's the same song.
Xenophobia. That's right. All right. We got to add that to the playlist. And let me go back to here.
I'm trying to keep up with these Prince specialists over here. I got
You're doing real good. You're doing real good. Yes, we got a double confirmation on Xenophobia.
I keep seeing that Mancina name in here.
Manisa.
Manisa.
Manisa. We got to say her name.
Oh, yeah, I'm getting lost in the yellow. Sorry.
Hey.
And Lee Christian says it's on the live Rainbow Children album too.
Okay.
There you go.
All right. Okay. So what did Prince do this week? What we know, 123rd episode 123. And we have week 20 of 1985. And this week, Prince was in the studio 5 days. And this is what we're looking at. So on Sunday, we have overdubs for My Man and Our Destiny. This is what albums are My Man? Well, I guess what album is My Man on? Because Our Destiny is actually not on the same record, but it's recorded by the same person. Let's see who's in the chat. And then,
Oh, I was about to say something. I was saying, okay, let the people in the chat guess that one.
yeah, we're gonna let the people in the chat guess that one. And then we have Monday, we have a album compilation of The Family. And then we have Paisley Park, a copy of Paisley Park. And then we have Parade. That's right. I love D68A. JJ. For a long time, I thought
JJ Walker had album?
was Johnson. On 1999, I thought in real time that JJ was Jesse Johnson. I didn't realize it was Jill Jones until probably Purple Rain, but Memory 10 also got Jill Jones. That's right. And then so on Tuesday, there's another compilation of Parade. Then on Wednesday, we have a listen and a mix of the Dance Electric, one of my favorite songs of all time that Prince has ever done. And then we also have the official release of Raspberry Beret. And then supposedly nothing happened on Thursday. That's the other book. And then on Friday, we got the Dance Electric mix. And then on Saturday, the other book. All right. So let's move it on forward. Who's going to read about?
Whenever I would see JJ on the 1999 album cover, I didn't put a person to it. I would just, every time I see JJ, I would go, Dynamite. That is all I would think every time.
Okay.
So, you was ahead of me.
All right. So who's going to read about My Man and Our Destiny, page 133 in the paperback.
I can start.
Okay, thank you.
Way. All right. My Man overdubs. Our Destiny overdubs. Sunset Sound Studio 3, 2:30 p.m. to 8 p.m. Booked, locked out. Producer Prince. Artist Jill Jones. Listed as Prince. Engineer Prince. Assistant engineer Peggy Mac Leonard. Want me to read the quote? Or?
Yes.
All right. He really kind of let me do what I wanted to do. And I could mimic him to the latter with the screams if he wanted that in the song. I had that down. Jill Jones. Wow. Prince continued recording overdubs for My Man in 1984's Our Destiny, which already contained Jill Jones' vocals. Often Prince would have David Z record her vocals, but it is possible that Jones was brought in on this date for vocals on My Man. I think Prince was just torn. Is she going to be rock and roll? But then sometimes he would have me exaggerate the vocals so much, whereas David Z might want to calm them down more because Prince was so exaggerated that it wasn't really timely for what was happening on the radio. There were days he'd come in with no agenda, as if he was looking for something to do, as Peggy recounts. On days like this, sometimes he'd walk in with stuff written down. Sometimes he'd just walk in to see what inspired him. Sometimes he'd noodle around, then leave. You could just tell he would come in and he would be very energetic and ready to go. But then sometimes he'd come in very contemplative, and he'd just sit and play the piano. And you're always ready for anything. Then after 4 or 5 hours, he would leave. Sometimes it seemed to me that he'd just come in to play around in the studio. He just came in to escape the world. That's some interesting stuff. The music created today was output to 5 C60 cassettes at the end of this short session.
All right, let me I gotta have a grounded moment about that. That's a lot of money for studio time. That's like, he just walking in and not knowing what to do.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, but at this point, he's already blown.
Yeah.
I mean, that's not even a thing for him, right?
Yeah, it's not a thing for him, but for us common folk, back in the $25 an hour studio time days, like I remember, used to have to go in that thing, like knowing everything needed to be like rehearsed. He'd go in there sometimes, as she said here, he didn't have a clue on what he wanted to do.
But you know what? I'm glad you said that, because the book that I'm not capable of writing, that I wish somebody would write, and I want to word it properly, because I don't like books about personal stuff. I've always been interested in the finances that drove Prince's art. Right? When you talk about, because to me, I've always wondered about what was the budget from these clothes coming from? Like how would they, like the man had a full clothing design operating since, let's say, 1999.
Around the clock.
Like he was employing somebody, and then when they opened Purple Rain had its own clothing design studio.
Yeah, Paisley Park.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, Paisley Park. So the question becomes for me, like, I just want to see I want to see the numbers. Like you said, I want to see the numbers for the studio time. I want to see the numbers for the clothes, because how are you keeping all of that in your head and being creative? We know he's signing all the checks. We know that everything is coming by him. Like I've self-published and just marketing and all of that, and trying to be creative. I just at some point say, "Hey, forget all that. I'm gonna just concentrate."
Hey, y'all just come get it.
Y'all
just come get the book.
That's something that I've always wondered about. What was the budget? What was the line item? How did you? So when you talk about coming in for 4 or 5 hours just noodling around, that's great creatively, but at the end of the day, somebody's flipping a bill for that. And I think that is something, that's a whole book about, and again, and I you would call it Prince's finances, but I think people would be thinking about, I'm talking about I'm not talking about his personal, I'm talking about the finances of running what was the corporation of Prince. I'll shut up.
I mean, it's like a while back. I know you talked about writing, every day, and it was, I think by this point Prince had been writing songs like, every day. But I like this little excerpt because it shows you that sometimes he just didn't have something that day. He's human just like the rest of us. He just didn't have an idea for that moment or for that particular time period. That some days he didn't write. Some days he just kind of just came in. I'm just go, tour around on this. I think maybe the bills for this probably helped fuel the desire to want to have a Paisley Park. I know, to where he was like, I don't gotta pay these jokers no more. I can just have my own spot and just go like whenever I choose to, and just pay the engineer, because with this he's got to pay like Peggy Mac and Susan and all them fees too, like just for being there. So
I think too, you got to remember that we've read in this book a little bit too, in terms of the money and the finance. I think it's a lot that everyone besides Prince, at least the artist aspect, there's the complaint of not getting paid, right, or getting paid a little bit, or these types of things. So I can imagine, where's some of that money going? For a guy who's very early in his career and have so many people around, not only from administrative level, but the artistic level, the engineers, like you said, the managers, and all the other stuff. I think there was some sort of, in order for it to be on this level, some things are going to have to be cut back a little bit. And it kind of seems like sometimes the artists, if you read what they say in this book, may have been the ones who got the cutbacks a little bit. But I always figured Prince, where the money, he had the money just like anybody else. But I think with a lot of cats would have just blew it on cars and all this other stuff. I didn't say he blew it, but he
spent on his craft
himself.
Yeah.
He spent on his craft. Yeah. Most definitely.
Whatever extravagance, other people that his extravagance was probably to have somebody to do his clothes or to do his hair all the time, where most people would have spent it on something else, or maybe he was like, I don't want to blow it on the strip club. No, I think I had that, but I'm gonna spend it on staying in the studio all day. This is what I want to do.
I agree.
There's a reason why we didn't see him in the jet picture of the week in the club posted up back in the day.
Right.
And I agree. That's why that Neil Carlin quote from the documentary is one of my favorite quotes, when he said that Neil Carlin said it was interesting that when Prince opened Paisley Park, there was a lot of criticism, right? Oh, it's a vanity, it's this and that. And then he said, but if Prince would have taken $10 million and shoved it in his veins, everybody said, well, that's okay, that's a rock star. Right. So I like what you said, brother. And I've told this story, but I'm telling it from a finance thing. So that's why, like, this story I don't tell a lot, but I do want to tell the story from a finance, just to kind of tie the bow on how these things operated. The very first meeting I had at Paisley Park, we were going through notes, and about an hour into the meeting, Prince said, what do you think about recording your poems with music? And a kind of general question. And my response was, yeah, I know a lot of people do that. That's not really my thing, though, because I know too many poets who use music as a crutch. And I really want to concentrate on language. And I'm not a spoken word artist. So I'm just more interested in just mastering words and not having music to distract from my work. And he just said, okay. Like, he literally just said, okay. And then we went on and returned to talking about the book. An hour later, and I would forget if it's public. I have to look, but it's public relations person. It was either Lisa or Laura. I can never remember. Lisa, I think it was Lisa. And she was walking me down the hallway. And as we were walking down the hallway, there was an engineer there. And the engineer, she was surprised to see the engineer because no one's supposed to be there. And she said, well, why are you here? And the engineer said, well, Prince had told me yesterday that he was going to do something in the studio. But he said, never mind, that's okay. And so he said, okay, and he left. And it wasn't until I was going home and I put two and two together, I was like, was I supposed to record poetry in the studio?
He's gonna be when the rain is wet.
And and now I'm only telling that because that was 2002. What years that? That was 2002, man, Ray. That was 2002. So that I worked with Prince from 2002 to 2004, about 18 months. But yeah, but saying that to say, so an engineer was just kind of called in, right? And so that's my point, is that so an engineer just kind of called in, and then now, okay, that's so that again, I think about like, how was the money and all? I'm sure the engineer got paid for coming up there regardless. So anyway, that's it.
Man, you could have been on the record, man.
Hey, y'all know how I comfort myself with that. Here's how I comfort myself with that. I look at it this way. So y'all look at the good part. I look at it as I could have been one of them associated artists that people hated. This dude terrible.
Oh man.
They'd have been selling your CD would be at $300 on eBay.
Yep.
Right?
There you go.
Yep. Hey.
So I want to say a couple of things. One, I am actually curious if Prince did sign the checks the entire time, particularly early on. And the only reason why I say that is because based on some of the books that I've read, when people were complaining about their money, it seems like he did not know, like what their situations were. So that led me to believe that maybe he wasn't, but like, who knows? But I do think that Funding the Rain by C.Lee McGinnis would be an amazing book.
Funding the Rain, yeah. There's the title, Funding the Rain.
Or Funding Paisley Park. I mean, because that's pretty much, I've often thought about how much of an albatross that Paisley Park was just financially. Mm-hmm. That was a huge, we're talking about 65,000 square feet. Yep. Let's talk about the, paying for the electric bill, the water bill that they have in Minneapolis. That was a lot.
Yeah.
And also, I think that it was funny, but I've always found Scott Wood's presentation for DM40 GB30 to be funny, but also it makes you go, And so for those of you who didn't see that presentation, I'll put it in the accompanying playlist, but Scott basically compared all of the finances of the clubs in the films. And I just thought that was like really, really hilarious. Like, like the dollars weren't making sense pretty much. But then I also thought about like how much it cost Prince to not only, keep the maintenance of that building, but also, like you said, he had his own, like, his fashion designers, and they had it was more than one and all of that. And then you also had the engineers, and then it's just so many. You had the receptionists, the Paisley Park and all of that. And
go ahead. I'm sorry.
And I also wonder, like, what kind of hit he took when he brought it back, when he reclaimed Paisley Park for himself, because, in the beginning, it was a fully functioning movie house, other recording artists recorded at Paisley Park. So it was generating, money for him. But at one point he takes it back and it's no longer doing that for him.
Put the Brother Bernay quote up, because that's but Brother Bernay, from what I understand, and maybe everybody on the screen and in the very chat can correct me, from what I understand, Paisley Park was always, that's funny, Brother Theo, and also one of my favorite songs of all time. From what I understand, Paisley Park was always supposed to be a fully functioning film, TV, audio studio. And I wonder if anybody else remembers the story that because I like when you talk about taking it back, it was, remember there was a Campbell's commercial that was shot there. There was scenes from Grumpy Old Men that was shot there.
Yeah, the Fine Young Cannibals did that album.
Exactly.
She Drives Me Crazy.
There you go. Stevie Wonder would rehearse there. It got to be a mega studio.
I think Kool and the Gang also rehearsed there.
Exactly, Kool and the Gang rehearsed there. And so from what I understand, Prince drove into Paisley Park one day, and there was not a studio available. And
he was heated.
yeah, and he
He was
basically
heated.
said, never
That's
let
it.
it happen again. Never let it happen. So that again, there is this whole kind of battle of Prince could be a great businessman when he wanted to be, but ultimately his artistic impetus, I'm not gonna say artistic whims, his artistic impetus was sometimes always circumventing, if that's a good word, his brilliant business mind. Does that make sense? Because
Yeah.
I think that Paisley Park, based on what we understand, was on its way to being one of the premier studios in America, if not the world. And Prince himself pulled the plug simply because he couldn't get a studio one day, which is amazing.
Hey, he want all y'all jokers in his house. I mean, well, I know, like Jill's album, The Family, like Maserati, Around the World in a Day. Trying to think what else. Like those albums that were done at Sunset. I think Warner Brothers paid that bill because that was part of like the album say recording cost. That was like the album budget.
Okay.
I mean, so to say. And so when he started operating out of Paisley Park solely, I mean, especially for his stuff, he kept that budget. I mean, was no recording cost to be paid for because it was at his own studio. I guess you see what I'm saying? So like, whereas at Sunset Sound, they could have billed him for like 5 weeks, wanted to pay it. He could record it at his spot. It could be said like whatever. And he, like if his recording budget is 10 million, well, I'm just going to pocket this 10 million and pay for whatever else I need to pay for because I did it all on my own. That, like that covered those costs up till those. So I'm pretty sure even with Jill's coming out later, because so much of it was recorded at Sunset Sound, that bill was just sent to Warner Brothers per se. Well, they, said, okay, Paisley Park, here's your, like your certain amount for like recording projects. This is what you do, whatever. But yeah, they probably, paid that bill. But then when he got his own thing, like when Paisley, I know, was up and running, he got to keep all that, like all that money that came to him for like recording purposes. He used for clothes or marketing or tour stuff or something like that or whatever.
So Miles Marshall Lewis was actually working on a book about Paisley Park, but he sunsetted it. And I don't know why. I really wish that he would have.
Time to get him on the horn.
Yeah, because
time to get him on the horn.
I just want to, I want to like emphasize this point. Like Paisley Park wasn't originally Prince's personal artistic playground. I mean, it was part of it, but like in order to sustain that facility, again, 65,000 square feet, you had to have some viable income coming in. So if you do your Googles, you can find, like there were films that were beyond Prince's own films that were recorded there. There were, musicians who rehearsed there. There were musicians who recorded albums there. It was a fully functioning production studio. And like, C. Lee has said, it's just like, it could have been the premier Midwestern facility. And it was, like when it first opened, like I remember seeing some ads for Paisley Park in some of like the production magazines, not like the pop magazines, but really targeted. And then, I just think often what Prince's finances would have been like. I'm not going to say something, but I will say this. I feel like Prince had to, I'm not going to be specific, but I'm going to say Prince had to do some shows in his later life towards the end that he didn't need to be doing. And I'm not talking about US shows, but there was one show in particular, and I feel like he needed to do it in order to sustain Paisley Park. And he could have been like concentrating on his health if he didn't have like this massive, like he could make money rain down whenever he wanted just by touring.
Right.
Touring takes a toll on the body, as we know.
Right.
So I just wish that it could have been like a still viable commercial studio practice, so he could slow down when he needed to and take care of himself.
And
yeah, because you know, I think the early years, I think he had it open till it kind of paid for itself. And then, like C. Lee said, you know, like when that incident happened, when he came and he couldn't get in there, he probably looked and said, "Hey, look, how much do we owe on this?" He was like, "All right, y'all got to get up out of here.
Right.
I need my space," you know. And
I think the thing is Prince was never a businessman. You know, he was a genius artist, maybe a disruptor, brilliant ideas, cutting edge stuff, but I don't equate that to being a business person. Like to me, looking at his choices throughout his career, he chose art over business, which I'm all for that.
Right.
But you know, I think the other stuff there's going to be a consequence. You know, you could argue not doing Purple Rain. I agree with why he would not want to do it, but from a business point of view, a businessman would have kept Purple Rain going.
Strike up the board. Hey man, you know,
plus little things like that throughout his career. A businessman would realize that building can be a headache. You know, it could be a liability and it can be a thing. And I think the artist is rather just, I want to be in here to do what I want to do when I want to do it. And you can't do that in a business. And you know, there's good and bad in that. I think we've got the good out of it, but we also have the bad out of it in the sense of, you know, where it's at today and who's got control and all. You know, a business person would never have that situation, but a brilliant, you know, cutting edge disruptor type dude. Yeah. I'm not worried about legacy. I'm worried about right now.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
You know, plus I like to say on behalf of everyone here and in the chat, but we helped fund that MF.
There you go.
All the stuff we bought. Hey, look, I feel like Jesse Johnson. Hey, look, I helped build this. I want to go see it.
Okay. So Ricky, you forced my hand. So I always bought anything Prince put out. I didn't never have to listen to it. Just day one, I was in the store because this hadn't come out yet. But now in retrospect, I realized this is what was important to me. If you remember the 5 Heartbeats and Eddie Kane, I never, ever, ever, ever wanted Prince to become Eddie Kane.
Right.
I understand. Yeah.
I had to do to make sure Prince could continue to be Prince. I was going to contribute to it in my own small way. And if you haven't seen the 5 Heartbeats, I highly recommend that you watch the 5 Heartbeats.
How does it feel to be me?
Oh man.
And Prince never had to do that. And I'm just so grateful that we as a community still, you know, because I want to say something, but I won't.
No, I think that what you're saying and what everybody's saying, because I'll end my conversation this way. So unlike the other 3 people on this screen, here's something I realized about myself. I like a lot of music, but I don't call myself a music scholar. And here's what I mean. I have never had the ability to pick who's going to be hot next because I just don't like that much different kinds of music. And I'll give y'all a perfect example. I was at the Minneapolis Black Music Awards when Next previewed. So when Next, that's the 3-man singing group from Minneapolis, right? Yeah, I was at the Minneapolis Music Awards when they previewed, right? When they did their little set, they had just signed their contract. They just did their little set. And I remember sitting there, and I was nice, so I didn't do it. But in my mind, I was like,
they ain't got it.
Like in my mind, I was like, all right, I left Minneapolis, came back to Mississippi, and in 3 weeks, they was the #1 R&B group in the world. I'm saying all that to say that was part of the issue for Paisley Park, especially with Brother Dean talking about being a businessman. I think is important. One of the things is being able to know what's going to sell, even though you don't like it.
Okay. Yeah.
And I think from that standpoint of Paisley Park, Prince was probably signing people that he liked and was incapable of calling signing people that he didn't like just because he knew they would sell, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And I think that's the difference between being, I guess, a music lover and being a business music person. And I just never been able to do that. I've never been able to, I can respect something, but I knew that I could never have a place in the music business because I just don't like or want to deal with a wide enough array of music that I'm going to sign something that doesn't move me. I'll shut up.
You know what?
What you like. I understand.
Carmen Electra.
Hey, look, I'm gonna piggyback off what D'Angelo said, and it's time for my weekly segment of Dear State.
Oh yeah.
And if you can imagine it in your mind, just the music to just my imagination. Dear State, on behalf of Prof Duff and the rest of us.
Wait. Don't put me
Yeah, don't put me in that.
The views on this site does not reflect
the views on this site, but no. Okay, in all seriousness, okay, Dear State, man, we want y'all to win, and we go do our part to make sure Prince wins. So, you know, as you are gathering, getting these super deluxes together for us in the future, just know that we got your back. You have our money and our support. Just, you know, if you could pick up the pace a little bit, help us out some, that would be great. But in the end, just know that, hey, I know we want y'all to win, and say we want Prince to win. That is my Dear State moment for the day.
I'm definitely down with that.
Put that Towel Street quote up. That's a perfect quote. Let me tell you why this is a perfect quote. I wrote an article about this a long time ago. And this I wrote an article about this a long time ago. There's only been one great athlete that was also a great coach. Only
that would
one.
Be
Larry Bird. There's never been a superstar athlete. There's something about so to that point, right? There's something about superstar athletes. They are usually horrible. Bill Russell was a player coach, so that don't count because he was out there playing, right?
He was a player coach. I love
Bill Russell was a player coach.
Yeah, he was a player coach. Yeah, he was the first player coach. He was the first player coach.
So Bill Russell was like, "Yeah, I'm take these scrubs out, put myself in the game." So Bill Russell was a player coach, and because he was a player coach, that's, you know what? Yeah, Blade Brown, but let's be clear, he was a horrible executive. He was a horrible executive twice. He wasn't just a horrible executive once. He was a horrible executive twice, and he was really terrible at choosing talent. And part of it is because great people expect other people to be great.
Mm-hmm.
And
or work
that's
at their
the
level.
other thing.
Yeah.
I would say that Jason Kidd El Michelle is a good coach. I wouldn't call him a great coach because one, he's never won a championship, and two, he's had some teams that had talent that I think underachieved. So I think Jason Kidd is a great mind, but he was never a great coach. He was a good coach. I'll shut up.
Yeah. Like and say the music business is always the guys that were like subpar artists but made great executives, like Barry Gordy. He was like a subpar songwriter.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? But he was like a great executive. L.A. Reid. You know, when people forget that he was a drummer in say The Deal. You know,
I didn't know that. I didn't know he was.
Yeah, like he was the drummer in say the band The Deal, and you know, he and Babyface were just the only two that were like, you know, writing. But in terms of writing, you know, clearly Babyface was the, you know, like the golden goose in that partnership. But you know what I'm saying, he made a better say executive and so on. You know, I know my guys Jam and Lewis for all their great successes, man, producers and whatnot. I don't know if they had the same success, you know, running like in perspective, you know, like that well. But yeah,
Put JD Watkins' first quote up. Lenny Wilkins.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, he was a player coach.
I will give his.
the Supersonics.
I'll put it this way, brother.
Yeah,
Washington.
Mike.
I'll put it this way, brother Washington. I will give you Lenny Wilkins because he was a superstar athlete who actually led a team to a championship. My only hesitance with Lenny Wilkins is that his overall record, I think he's like barely above 500. So that's my only.
I mean, he coached the Hawks, so
positive
hey, he get hometown love.
is that he was barely over 500. But brother Washington, I won't hold you. If you want to say Larry Bird and Lenny Wilkins, I'll give you that, and then I'll just end by answering his quote. Yeah, I'll come back. And I'll end by answering J.D.
The
Washington.
rails are here. We're waiting.
I just end on J.D. Washington. Joe Torre was a subpar ball player. So he was Joe Torre was a great coach, but he's a subpar ball player. I shut up. Sorry,
All right.
Hey, do my brown mark purple rain. Okay, tour the gig rehearsal. Hey man,
Put the fucking magazine down and play.
All right. We're gonna keep it moving. I am
keeping it moving.
I'm so sports illiterate. I have no clue of what you're talking about. So we are going to continue with our reading. It is Monday, May 3rd, 1985.
Okay, I'll do it.
I got it.
Oh, you do?
Yeah, I'm gonna do this one. The Family album compiled, Paisley Park tape copies, Sunset Sound Studio 3, 2:30 p.m. to 5:30 p.m. Booked, locked out. Producer Prince, artist Prince listed, but it was The Family. So I guess that means maybe he wasn't there. Engineer Peggy Mac Leonard. I'm skipping the Eric Leeds quote. So if you want to hear what Eric Leeds had to say, you got to do your reading.
Eric said, I ain't like it.
Peggy, stop, Michael. Peggy spent 3 hours assembling the Family's self-titled album, including Claire Fisher's score, and running off a copy of Paisley Park from Prince's Around the World in a Day album. The tape would be sent to Warner Brothers to create the single. The session ended with her making 13 cassettes, 12 C90 and 1 C60 of the Family compilation, likely for the band as well as Warner Brothers.
Can I say something real quick?
Yeah.
Well, I'm pretty sure back then, at the most, they probably would only have maybe 2 cassette decks.
Mm.
Record. You got to imagine they were playing this over and over in real time, making these cassettes. But just throwing that up.
Yeah, just like in real time. But I wonder what's on the C60. Like what's on the 13th cassette? Just the Paisley Park and the Family were on the 12 C90s. That's what I'm thinking, but I could be wrong. Okay, Prince often, no, we're not going to read that paragraph. Okay, Prince continued working on the project, although it is unclear if he attended the session. During the time that the Family album was being compiled in Los Angeles, the actual band was in Minneapolis preparing for the release and rehearsing in Prince's new warehouse located at 6953 Washington Avenue South in is it Edina?
Edina, yeah.
Yeah. It was myself, Susanna Melvoin, Jellybean Johnson, formerly of The Time, on drums, Jerome Benton from The Time, and St. Paul Peterson, detailed sax player Eric Leeds. The 5 of us were going to be the actual group. We were the ones who were going to be signed. As they rehearsed for their eventual live show, and I think it's really important to just remind everyone, we just had a symposium. It seems like 5 years ago. It really wasn't that long ago where we had
just a month ago.
Yeah, just a month ago, we had all members of the family with the exception of Jerome, even though he really wanted to be there. And they talked about doing their rehearsing. So like if you want some more context to rehearsing, you get that from Eric Leeds. And then you can hear Susanna and St. Paul and Jellybean talk about what it was like to do their solo performance at First Avenue. So if you haven't watched it, please do. I mean, I'm just grateful that they said yes and that they took time out of their very busy schedules to want to be with us, because they didn't have to do that. I ask a lot of people and sometimes they say no. So I have nothing but respect to all.
What? People tell you no?
Of course.
You know what I'm saying? You know, oh shoot. Oh, I'm getting mad. Hold on. Okay.
A lot, actually. So all right. So as they rehearsed for their eventual live show, the core band was expanded and Prince was looking for a guitarist, remembered Levi Caesar Jr. Sheila said to him, "Oh, I need somebody in the Bay Area. They flew me out to Minneapolis, but I didn't meet Prince at first. I was just in that circle. I auditioned for the Family's band and actually got the gig." This is Levi. "I had the gig for 2 days. And then something came up and Prince sent a message saying, 'Oh man, I really liked you, but I had to do some other things with that. Man, you're hot. It's cool. I'm going to keep you in mind. Levi was later recruited for Prince's Sign of the Times band, and he remained with him for years. That's a testament to Levi's talent.
Can
It is.
I say just something quick about that? That is a perfect example that you never burn your bridges by getting in your feelings.
Mhm.
Just think if Levi would have been so hurt and emotional by not getting the gig. Well, F you then. I ain't want right. And so I think that's a great lesson about just because you don't get the results you want or you don't get the answer that you want, relationships are sometimes more important than money. And Levi clearly kept a good relationship so that when Sign of the Times came up, he could get in the band. I'll shut up.
You know, there's a core of like musicians who don't get the recognition that played in the circle a lot, that we tend to overlook, or people just don't know how maybe to get in touch with. But I would love to hear from those guys. I mean, like you said, just like those guys that played in like the one-off family situation. The drummer from Madhouse, Dale Alexander, I think it is. Just other people who kind of were there, but they weren't in like the main circle of the loop of people, but just who were around and lent their talents, help bring some stuff to life for us. I'd love to hear from those cats.
For sure. Because I mean, I can't remember who made this point. Maybe it was you, C. Lee. I can't remember, but the people who actually was with Prince the least usually have the better memory of what happened, because the people who are with him every day, it was a blur because they were doing so much, and like recording for so many different projects that it would be really hard, to figure out what you did. Because I can't even remember what I did last week, let alone like 30 years ago. And so what's great about Eric Leeds is that he took meticulous notes.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, he has a journal. And you know why he kept a journal, C. Lee? He kept a journal because he wanted to get paid.
Right. That's right.
That's a business, man.
That's right.
So he had so actually what's great is that he gave Duane his journal. So Duane,
really?
Yeah.
Wow.
So I don't, a copy of him or something. So that's the reason why, Duane was able to get some of the information that he had, because Eric wasn't going off of memory. He got receipts.
Right.
Man,
that's great. I mean, that's a great business mind.
Yeah, that's I man, so I wonder, man, if I would have had the foresight had I been hired by Prince to do that. I'm gonna keep a journal of just everything, not being so caught up in just the moment. But that's dope.
Yeah. So
and that's also to young creatives, because it's a little late for me. That's also for young creatives. Somebody asked me about, was Jackson State gonna have all my papers? And of course, Jackson State is gonna have all my papers. But when you're a young musician, you don't think about archiving your work like that. Or when you're a young artist, you don't think about, because I'm sure we got 3 other artists on the screen. And I don't think that when Brother Dean or Prof Duff or Brother Rick were in their 20s, they weren't thinking, one day I'm going to give my papers to such and such estate or such and such institution. So I would just say to young creatives out there, look, you never know where your career is going to go. Be like Eric, be meticulous about archiving and keeping your stuff, if for nothing else, for your children and your grandchildren. At least they'll have some record of who you are. I'll shut up.
Yes, and this is also very important when you're doing freelance work, like Modern Era is talking about. I tell this to my students all of the time. And then also, I'm not going to go, I'm going to say this really quickly. A lot of times people think that things that take a long time don't take as long as they do, and things that don't take that much time, it actually is much longer time. So when you're doing freelance work and you're guesstimating how much to charge someone, you won't know unless you're actually tracking your time and have a sense of how long things are taking you. So if you want to be a businessman, because that's the thing with a businessman or a business person, because that's what we've been talking about today, you really want to do that. All right, let's continue. So Miko Weaver, who was in Sheila's band, was hired on guitar. Bill Carruthers and Wendy and Susanna's brothers brother, Jonathan Melvoin, on keyboards, and multiple bass players. I love this. Multiple bass players were considered before deciding on Alan Flowers. Wally Safford and Greg Brooks also joined Jerome on stage during the concert. Prince was hoping to recreate Claire Fisher's work from the album, so Lisa's brother David was also asked to join. When they put on a live act, someone called me and said, "Come on out to Minneapolis and we'll put together a string section." Jonathan Melvoin was also involved. We do 2 keyboard players, Novi Navag on viola, myself on cello, and we'd audition a violinist. As we got it together and the day came that Prince just decided not to go with the strings. He just said it wasn't appropriate for their first shows. That would have been incredible, though. I played bass with them for a short time, but it wasn't appropriate. For bass, I kind of play a little reggae or some kind of eclectic bass, and they needed someone that was a little more flashy, more like Stanley Clarke. So I went back to LA. And that was Alan Flowers, if I remember correctly. We recorded almost every one of the family rehearsals out at the warehouse. We recorded almost everything. I want to see that. We rehearsed there, and Sheila was rehearsing at the same time. We videotaped all of our rehearsals. We used to send little competition videos back and forth to Sheila, make fun of her and call her out because we were coming up at the same time. She had a hot band and we had a hot band. That's St. Paul. This is Prince. There is a real heavy competition thing that's good and healthy. We're like 4 little gangs. My band, Sheila E., The Family, and Maserati. There used to be Vanity 6 in the time, and it was the same thing. Eric Leeds explained what was expected of all of Prince's protege bands. The plan was that there was going to be a tour in the fall of '85. It was going to be Sheila and her band as the headliner, The Family, and Maserati. That would have been incredible.
Man, oh man, I do remember having my hopes up for that.
Yes. Prince had also commissioned a script tentatively called Desire. That would be a battle between The Family and Maserati. The idea was to create another Purple Rain type film, but it never made it past the script stage. A lot of times we'd be driving over to see his management and he'd have all these ideas about that, recalls Susanna Melvoin. I'm familiar with that. It was talked about. I think it was having someone else write it. I never saw him write one word on it. Prince had ideas for Sheila E. around that time, and then Sheila would come by the warehouse, remembered Susan Rogers, and there were ideas for The Family as well. So there were recordings taking place at the warehouse in that space. It also included Jill Jones and other artists. So it was like a parade of artists coming in and out. It felt like a factory for music. Prince was also rehearsing with the Revolution during this period.
Man, that would make a great family set if they could do like remastered, like what we got, and then do a version. I know without the string section, and then have like some live audio or video of like the rehearsal or them doing a show like that. Like that would sell. I honestly think, Dear States, I think that would sell. I mean, like I think people would really like, gulp that up. You know what I'm saying? That make a nice little, because I know sometimes with doing these deluxe editions, you people want extra stuff. And I know somebody in the, powers that be, like maybe thinking, well, they only have this, like one album, like what could we possibly, sell for them? There you go. I mean, they got stuff there.
Yep. So D68A says that there is a Prince and Family rehearsal. I'm writing this down so I can add it to the playlist.
And I would just like to thank him by saying, this is the D68A show.
Yeah.
Man, I know when that tour didn't happen, I used to, when I used to have to do my homework and have study sessions and stuff, I formulated playing those 3 albums, Sheila, The Family, and the Maserati back to back, like just to kind of, like envision like what that would have been like, had they done that. I think that would have helped the latter 2. I know further on, like The Family and Maserati, like we'd be having a different conversation, man, about them the day had that tour happen like that.
For sure.
And not to conflate the two issues, but given what we know about 4 years later with the corporate world, Graffiti Bridge, these things that's going on, whose movie is going to be, whose movie is not going to be, what Warner Brothers wanted. I wonder how much of this project was derailed by what Warner Brothers wanted, plus Prince trying to balance, right, these things. Like when he's going to his management saying, I'm thinking about doing this. And because we do, and correct me if I'm wrong, Graffiti Bridge, the first movie was supposed to be a vehicle for the time. And then right, and then of course you got these different scripts with Prince and what's old girl from Batman,
Kim Basinger.
Yeah, then supposedly Prince and Madonna had a script or something, and then these other things. And so you kind of always tell people that's kind of Graffiti Bridge is kind of like, you know, and I hate to put it this way, it's kind of like the carcass of all those other ideas. And I wonder how much Warner Brothers had with kind of usurping these things and Under the Cherry Moon, which Under the Cherry Moon for me is not a carcass, but getting Under the Cherry Moon as opposed to getting these other projects. I'll shut up.
All right. So, Ricky, do you want to read the next? It's Tuesday, May 14th.
Sure. Parade album compiled, Sunset Sound Studio 3. This has to be the shortest session we've read about. 2 p.m. to 4 p.m. Booked lockouts. And producer Prince, artist Prince, engineer Peggy Mack.
Read the quote.
Read the quote. When you're gonna put an album together, there's gonna be a lot that accompanies that album.
A look.
Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you. A look that accompanies that album. Think of Black and White for the Parade album, or think of Black and White for the Dirty Mind record. You're touring that album, so you're really selective about what that album contains. So you've got 35 minutes to say something that needs to hold you for the next year. That's it. Prince said this, himself in interviews. The album matters, not the single, the album. And anything that doesn't make the album goes into the vault or is a B-side. Okay, no comment from you, D'Angelo?
I have comments, but
okay.
Let's keep it moving.
All right. Okay, now. It said the aesthetics of Prince's album, art, and personal style are something that deserves an entire book dedicated to them. Sometimes they could be complex, and sometimes it was just heading in an entirely different direction, as Lisa explains. He could just flip things, and that would work, like the difference between Around the World in a Day and Parade. One is in color, one is in black and white. It's like really obvious. He would just flip things and say, now, if I do that, that'll work. Peggy dubbed the May 1st Parade album assembly to 3 C90 tapes, and the brief session was over. This was likely done without Prince's presence. You think 2 hours? All right.
So I'm curious what you have to say to Susan Rogers' comment, not about the single, but the B-sides in particular. I'm curious. I mean, just because, like, for me, the B-sides were often, I played more than the album on occasion. And what I mean by that, I would put those songs on repeat, or I actually literally had to move the needle to the beginning of the record over and over again. But I was doing that as opposed to listening to the albums. I'll give you an example. Like when Erotic City came out, I thought that was like the best thing since sliced bread. Just Prince and Sheila, and just like the production on that song. The same thing with Irresistible B. Like it was something about how that was recorded, the cleanness of it. Just the drumming in that track, and Prince, quote unquote, rapping, talking, whatever you want. It was like something I had never heard from him before. It was like incredible. So I'm just curious, like your response to what Susan. And we do know that Prince said albums matter. I mean, we know that.
I was gonna say to that point, I think that Susan was making one point and kind of did an addendum at the end of her point. I think that taking this in whole, I just think that, remember we talked last week or 2 weeks ago, I said that Prince and particularly Parade is the one that made me no longer a singles person, right? I don't listen to singles. I rarely say I want to hear this X song by Prince. I always want to hear this album. And so I think that for me, this is affirmation that Prince was thinking that way. Prince was thinking not about a single per se, but this narrative story I want to tell. And I would say to the end point, it's kind of like a lot of people don't know that Stevie Wonder's Songs in the Key of Life was a double album and a 45.
Mm-hmm.
And if you look on the back of that album, so there's a double album, and then after all the songs are listed for the double album, there's a little thing that says something extra. So the song Ebony Eyes, and I can't remember the song that was on the back of Ebony Eyes. Ebony Eyes was on the 45 that came with that on. And so the B-side, I think, is part of Prince doing that Stevie Wonder or something, little something extra. Mm-hmm. So I'm with you. I think that Prince was giving us that Stevie Wonder something extra while at the same time being a complete album artist, because of course he's constrained by time, right? He knows that Warner Brothers is only going to give me X amount of time. And so now I have these other songs, and I look at the B-side songs in a different way. They're not just songs that are too good to go in the vault. Because a lot of times people say, well, these were songs that didn't make the album, they were too. No. If you look at those B-side albums, those B-side singles, they push or stretch either the narrative or the imagery of the album. So that those songs become an extension of what is being said, or they become a bridge from one album to the other album. So that's why those B songs resonate with all of us, because they are not only just great songs, but they continue a narrative in a way that I think without them, the narrative wouldn't have been continued. I'll shut up.
You know, if this particular album had to come out a few years later, they probably would have been part of the album, just because the constraint of having 9 songs on an album would have been gone. It would have been like CD. So he could have had 12 or 14 songs. So like Parade. So all the things that we got were B-sides or, like bootleg recordings, they would have been included. And so we would have gotten those in real time, which would have made the album maybe complete, like a complete era of like Parade stuff, so to say. But because of the time frame of, albums only being maybe 35, 45 minutes, you had maybe 8 to 9 songs, things of that nature. So I've always wondered that, like, had that not been the constraint,
what kind of albums we would have gotten in that's a really good point. I love that.
I was gonna say with the B-sides too, I think any of his songs that were on the album, if they had not been on the album and they got released as a B-side, I'd have went crazy for it. Don't matter what the song was. Think about it, like, or if they didn't put I Wonder You on the album, but it was a B-side. Nuts over I Wonder You probably more than we do now. I think there's a certain kind of what Celie was saying, that something extra, or you're getting the idea, you're getting something that's, different, is also a psychological thing to the fans or the person buying it, where, I'm getting a little extra from my money. And it's not a throw, and it doesn't come off as a throwaway. I don't think he made throwaway song necessarily. So to me, it's just like anything he could have put on a B-side would have been banging, whether it was one of those songs that were on the album or not. And then back to the constraining thing, I think it was a blessing that in his earlier years, the technology did not allow you to have 80 minutes, 70 minutes, because it made sure then you're going to have to make what you do tight as hell. Like everything's got to be, there's some sort of constraint to what you're doing. So it's going to make you have to do a certain thing. I think when you take the wheels off of it and you can do whatever you want on a larger scale, you have the record industry you have today.
Yep.
There is no, you can put anything you want at any given second, and it could be as long or as short as you want it to be. I think how would I say, the 20th century mind of the human has not wrapped itself around how to have exceptional art when the wheels are released.
Right.
I still think we're trying to figure out, okay, how do we create classical material where there's no constraint? And I wonder, maybe it's going to be people who were born in a world where there were no constraints, so they think differently, as opposed to somebody like me was born in a world where even what we're doing is ridiculous, in a sense that we have the ability to do this. We didn't have the ability to do this back when these albums came out that we talked about. So there was no even camaraderie between our fans to discuss it on this level, which changes how an artist would even make their music if they knew we could be doing shit like this and dissect the hell out of everything they did and hold them accountable to what they're putting out. So, and I just think we're in a different time. And we got to see Prince sort of go through his technological time of not being restrained. You know, you can do Sign of Times, or you can do Love Sexy, and he's fighting back to say, well, he's cut it all, make it just one track. You know, the audience will be forced to, I'm going to give them a constraint to how to listen to my music. And so you can see it from both sides, right? Anyway.
No, I want to say I agree with you 100%. And I've argued this with my students. While I'm not for censorship, I think that censorship and constraints made artists more creative. And when you're talking about record companies and you're talking about limited radio stations, I agree. Again, I'm not arguing for censorship. I don't want anybody going out here saying Celia is for censorship. I'm saying that I agree with you 100% that limitations and not having that many opportunities made you bring your best and made you be as creative as possible. But I never thought about, and I'm glad you said that, because I never thought about something you said. Just said it's going to take somebody with a different mind who didn't live with that to be able to really fathom and understand, yes, I got all of this. Now how do I bring my best with all of this? And just one last thing I'll say, Stevie Wonder was slick as hell because it was a 45, but the 45 was cued at 33 and a third, like an album. So there's actually 4 songs on there, not just 2.
Oh, wow.
That's very slick.
And the 4 songs are Saturn, Ebony Eyes, All Day Sucker, and Easy Going Evening. So this man put 4 extra songs on a 45. How? By cueing it in the speed of a 33 and a third. Damn, Steven.
Yeah, that's some shit right there.
And I'll just add this to the men in the chat. I'll just say this. I don't advise listening to All Day Sucker if you've ever had your heart broken by a woman that took advantage of you. That's all I'm gonna say. I'm gonna leave it at
You know, happy 75th birthday to Stevie.
There you go.
Know what I'm saying?
70.
Oh, wow. All right. So, Celie, I didn't know anything. I mean, I know of Stevie, but Prince took all my money. There's so many artists that I wish I would kind of experience in real time, but there could only be one when it came to the finances, and Prince was it. So I didn't know about the extra 45. I didn't know about the 33 and a third speed. So you schooling me today, Celie, and I really appreciate it. And that's one of the things I love about doing this every week and having you join us. So with that being said, Celie, can you read Wednesday, May 15th, 1985?
Yes, I will. Prince quote.
Yes, of course. We always read Prince quote.
No doubt. We're not too much into singles. It's about the book. You know. Raspberry Beret, back with She's Always in My Hair, was released in the United States, and it would become Prince's 7th top 10 hit, but topped out at number 3 on the Black chart and number 2 on the Pop chart, behind Duran Duran, A View to the Kill, which was benefiting from the additional promotion as the title track from the summer's James Bond movie. Prince continued to focus on the album as a whole, but Warner Brothers wanted to release this as a single to capitalize on it getting radio airplay. Which, boys and girls, but during that time, DJs chose what song they wanted to play from the album, and not just because it was sent to them from the record company. All right, let's move on. This is a quote from Marlon Boudreaux.
Mary Lou.
I'm sorry, say it for me again.
Mary Lou.
Lou.
Mary Lou, thank you. I'm sorry, Mary Lou Boudreaux. Thank you. Once again, Prince was so far outside the box and wouldn't listen to the big execs as to their reasons for a single, explains Mary Lou Boudreaux of Warner Brothers. Quote, it was only after we continued talking to his management that a single was finally given an okay. The album wasn't being received well from radio. They were looking for Purple Rain 2 as well. I always felt he saw this as a deeply personal album, just my viewpoint, and as a complete work of art. So why a single? Quote, I wanted this album, because this is Prince talking, quote, I wanted this album to be listened to, judged, critiqued as a whole. This goes Prince. Continues his quote, it's hard to take a trip and go around the block and stop when the trip is 400 miles. Dig, end quote. While the direction is seen as pioneering by some, it is seen by others as misreading his audience and not grasping the record company's role in the success of his music, explains Susan Rogers. Susan Rogers, quote, that may or may not have been a mistake. That was pretty risky. There's no doubt the record companies and program directors across the country had a lot to do with Purple Rain being successful. I mean, it was marketed well. It wasn't just his talent that got over, end quote. No, that's not end quote. There's a lot of other people behind the scene. I think that Prince just didn't understand the input of many other people when he chose to just release that record as a whole, end quote. Okay, and then Bardot again, final quote. Prince had no time for people who could not share his vision, add Bardot, whatever that might be at the moment, end quote.
Wow.
I think that everybody has valid points. Again, I remember DJs playing different things off the album because it didn't have a specifically, we had to, if people remember, MTV played the Raspberry Beret video every hour for I think 24 hours. I think at the top of every hour for 24 hours, MTV played the Raspberry Beret video. But other than that, there was no real direction. And so depending on what radio station, I heard like a lot of different songs. I was aware that the album wasn't selling new songs. I was aware that the album wasn't selling like Purple Rain, but at the same time, like I remember one DJ played Tambourine and given Tambourine subject matter, which a lot of people didn't know. But I thought it was interesting that different radio stations were playing different things, and that's the argument for how much of it is talent, how much of it is marketing. I'm not going to get into that debate because there is a percentage. If you want to say 70-30, 80-20, 50-50, I think that both parties have an argument that yes, it's both talent and marketing. I'll shut up.
Well, I guess to think about, one, he's coming off of his biggest success of all time, right? Like he won. He was winning. It almost seems the way I wonder, did he think he wasn't winning or something? Like maybe he just didn't want to be some kind of pop star or something, or it seems like he's acting as if he's not successful or something to me, where it's like, dude, they're gonna love what you put out regardless. But I think she makes a great point to say that it isn't just the talent in terms of it being a business. And he's in a business and he's one of the biggest in the business at that time. It can't be just about the talent, and it never was. I would probably say the least thing about it is the talent, sadly. And I think he starts to learn this less. I think this is where this may start to kind of confront that a little bit, because I want to imagine at this point, the sales don't go up, they start to go down. And it's not because of his talent, right? He's the most talented guy in the game. So it can't be about the talent why the record sales start to drift. There's other factors in mind. And I think one of those factors, and I think she's very correct, the music business and all those people that are in that business go into making a record, a Purple Rain or a Thriller. Otherwise, it'd just be a great record. It'll be, whatever the Black Famous, it'll just be DeBarge, or it'll just be Zach or something. Right. You all know it, but the world ain't, because the rest of the industry is not doing what it's supposed to do to make you the superstar. And, I think this is probably kind of one of those parts in his career where Maybe he thought it was just the talent. And I don't think and I think that's why the difference I said earlier about being a business person and being a great artist, genius. This is two different things. And if you're wanting to be the artist, super eclectic, you can't expect to have the outcome of a super business person. And if you're a super business person, you probably are not going to sit here and trying to be winning album of the year every year, because it's just two different lanes. It's only very rarely that they sort of coexist, and really it only coexists for a very short time, in my opinion.
So one of the things I want to say, I think if Prince had his druthers, it sounds like Around the World in a Day would have been his Love Sexy, in terms of just having like a one track.
Right.
So it sounds like, he had that idea in his head for a while. And, even like with Sign of the Times, he really didn't want to put out any videos for that either. And with the Sign of the Times video, if you've ever seen it, it's just words. So that's one thing.
And was that kind of more of a, since they don't want to do what I want to do, F them kind of deal?
No, I think that it was kind of in line with him being, and I don't want to cut off Prof. That's all one way, but because I like your question. I think that if you're thinking about 1985 and you're thinking about the artists that Prince loves, most of those people were album artists, and they were concept artists. So I think that after Purple Rain, Prince had gotten to a point where he had decided, I think I can just be a concept artist. I don't, and I think also we have to understand that financially, if you've ever seen the James Brown movie, Get On Up, there's an argument when James wanted to do a live album, the businessman told James, your people don't buy singles, don't buy albums. They don't have the money. Black people, and you have to understand, if you go back 50s and 60s, singles were targeted at Black communities, albums were targeted at white communities. And so Black artists had to be really great breakthrough artists to be targeted. So you had to be a Stevie Wonder. Then, the Temptations got to that. And then eventually Smokey Robinson got to that. And then Earth, Wind, and Fire, and Parliament Funkadelic, right? They had to really push through. And I think that when Prince gets to Past Purple Rain, I think he's really looking at himself as, I am now an album artist. I am not a singles artist. I'm not a one-hit wonder. I'm not a checking where I am on the billboards. I am now a legacy artist. And I think that's where his mindset was. And I think, however, to Brother Dean's point, and I don't know if he misunderstood or misjudged, that even as a legacy artist, marketing counts as well. And so I think that's where the disconnect was that him not understanding, yes, you can be a legacy album artist, but they still gonna make you play this marketing game. And I think Prince kind of checked out of the marketing game a bit early for some people. And I think that a lot of that was backlash, because when you get into the 90s, there were a lot of inside people not effing with Prince simply because he wasn't playing their marketing game. All right, that's it.
This period, it reminds me, I guess this may have been the period that inspired the lyric in Don't Play Me, when he says, I've been to the mountaintop and it ain't what you say. Judging from what we read and stuff that's kind of going on, his, not like, I won't say it's a pushback, but his kind of his mode to operate, became differently. And then I think this particular period inspired that lyric, and it kind of makes so much more sense now, because I understand it, how he was like what Celie said, and then what Mike was saying, he kind of was like, I'm not a singles guy. I'm, like, you're gonna take me serious, and then not wanting to play the game.
Did the We Are the World thing happen already?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, he's already sort of, the industry's kind of pump brakes
Right.
a little bit against him to some
Exactly.
degree as well.
Yeah.
We cut off D'Angelo. My bad.
Yeah,
It's
I'm sorry.
okay.
Yeah, me too. My bad.
So I wanted to do, maybe I should do this first, and then I wanted to do this question. So this is the single for Raspberry Beret. And I always wanted this to be a gatefold, because like there's never been a gatefold single. And I was like, Prince should be the first to do a gatefold single, because I think that this should have been that. But I like to pull these out just to remember, because I didn't realize that the vinyl itself is very much like the album in terms of having the paisley on one side and then the sky on the other. And also you can see, how long by the threads and all that. Okay, so I did that. I wanted to ask, how do you guys feel about this question from Andre? Do you think that Prince has something to do with Around the World not selling well? It seems like he just wanted to put it out there and not be bothered with promoting it. Like, do you think that or not?
I would say that I think that's a good question, but I think just based on how he defended it in that Rolling Stone article, I mean, he was really 10 toes deep for that album in that Rolling Stones article. So I don't think that I don't think it was not be bothered with it. I think he really believed in that record, and I think when we think about, we've gone through talking about him recording it and really being into it. So I don't think that the not be bothered with it. I just really think that he was really in a place where this is great art. I want to be, and also coming back to what Brother Ricky said about the Truth album, right? The only competition is me in the past, right? And remember what he said to Chris Rock, and whether we take him seriously or not, Prince didn't see his peers as his competition, right? Remember Chris Rock said, "Hey, do you hear such and such with a new song in here?" He said, "No." Prince's competition was James Brown, Jimi Hendrix, Little Richard, the Beatles, Parliament Funkadelic. Now, I know that's hard for people to get their brains around. Prince was not necessarily, I think, maybe Michael Jackson, if you want to stretch it. I don't think that Prince was looking at who released the album this week as his peer group. I think that Prince was looking at, this is the greatness. I'm trying to reach the greatness, the Sly Stones, the Larry Grahams, the Bootsy Collins. And I think that for Prince, they were all kind of album artists in a way that you bought their album. If you lived in the 70s and 80s and had certain uncles and fathers, you bought albums and you put those albums on. I didn't come from a lot of singles people. I didn't know people who had a lot of, other than some of my classmates in school, most of the people I know who they love music, they loved albums. And so I just think that Prince was competing against that, and that may have hurt him, right? That he's competing in a business model that's 20 years old, right? Mm-hmm. And that because he's competing in a business model that's 20 years old, the people making money today don't really know what to do with him. I'll shut up.
You know what? You actually made me think about something that I didn't realize that. This is like, I just had a huge epiphany. So Nancy Wilson, not Nancy Wilson of Heart, but the Black Nancy.
The other Nancy Wilson. There you go.
The other Nancy Wilson. She was, I don't know, a decade too late when she came out. Like, her discography was incredible in terms of like being a jazz vocalist in the tradition of your Ellas and your Sarah and your Billies. And she had to kind of transition to, like R&B kind of pop, even though like what she really wanted to be was one of those jazz vocalist legacy artists. And I'm just now realizing, Saley, that you're absolutely correct in terms of Prince like being so vested in the album. But I'm vested in the album because Prince is vested in the album, and also my uncles were invested in the album. So I was that kid that saw those album covers in the fishnet, in the ceiling, and all that. So I grew up around albums, but we're kind of like, technology, we've been having this technology conversation and how technology changes music. And Prince was in that transition period of going from the album, to the CD and then the singles, like the mixes and things, when he really at his core was an albums guy. But like the times, they were changing, right? And I never really thought about that in that way. So I think I just was in denial, but you put it in a way where I hear you, Celie. You're absolutely right.
And can you put up the Love Sexy 71 quote? Because I want Love Sexy 71 quote that I don't disagree with you at all. I don't disagree with this comment at all. And this is where two things can be true. I've often said that, and I've been a victim of this myself. If something worked for me when people told me it wouldn't work, I'm damn sure not going to listen to you the next time. So I think that, yes, Love Sexy 71, Prince's early success emboldened him. But I think that's everybody. If you have early success doing something your way, and I remember the quote, remember that second Rolling Stone interview with Neil Carlin, and Prince says, he says that everybody's, so Freddie Bridge was getting ready to come out, and Prince said, everybody's saying what a risk Prince is making, and I'm here completing my movie with somebody else's money. Like I will always remember that quote because, so he's doing this, trying to be this legacy artist, and at the same time, because I've had success doing it this way, I really don't have to listen to y'all. And I'm not saying that, how do I want to put this? I'm okay if we want to say Prince failed because he didn't listen to people later in life. I'm okay with that, because if we're saying fail commercially, if we're saying fail making money, I'm okay with that because I still love the music that he was producing. Like when Prince's album sales fell out, again, I want to be like, because what I'm about to say is everybody else on the screen is going to disagree with Celie. So I want to be clear with this. I need y'all to understand. In the 90s, I didn't give a damn about that bullshit y'all was listening to. I want to be real clear. All that hip hop shit y'all was listening to in the 90s, I didn't give a damn about it. I was 10 toes down. When Prince went underground, I went underground. When his sales dropped out, yeah, hell, 1-800-NEW-FUNK, yeah, Crystal Ball, whatever. So, but I could also admit Prince ain't hot as he was. They not feeling Prince like it. And so, but that was also because of Prince's own vision. So two things can be true. Prince's vision took him to the top of the commercial mountain, and Prince's vision had him fall off the commercial mountain. Both things are true, and I still love the art that I got. I'll shut up.
I have to back you and TP. I didn't listen to hip hop, and so I'm in clubs to this day. I'm hearing songs I never heard before, and I'll ask the person next to me, "What is this?" And they'll say, "What?" Like, go to the door. Like, what are you doing at this club? Because like, for me, it was just Prince was all I needed at the time. But also, the first album that I listened a hip hop record was Tribe Called Quest's Low End Theory, just because of the jazz samples, because I was really into jazz, and that's what got me in. And then I listened to Snoop Dogg because he sounded Southern.
Yeah, he did. Had a Southern drawl.
Yeah, for me, he was the first Southern rapper. And then I found out that his parents are from Mississippi.
Meridian, Mississippi.
Yes, so that made a lot of sense to me. And so like, those are my first two records, but because of there were things that caused me to listen to him, but not for hip hop itself, because Prince was all I needed. But all right, Michael Dean, let's read Wednesday, May 15th, 1985, The Dance Electric.
All right.
I've been waiting on this, Brother Dean.
I'll make it good. The Dance Electric, listen and mix. Sunset Sound, Studio 3, 12 noon to 2 a.m. Booked and busy. Locked out. Producer Prince, artist Prince, engineer Peggy McLeonard. Quote or no quote?
Yes.
All right. The great Andre Simone. I was in the studio and he called me up and said, "Listen, man, I got this song that I think we should really hook up and we should do this." And he played it to me over the phone. And I said, "Yeah, that sounds like something that's right up my street." So we hooked up. Andre Simone. Today's session was divided into two sections, listening to the track from noon to 2:30 in the afternoon, and then mixing the track from 9 p.m. to 2 in the morning. He kept me waiting a lot, and he would come in with an attitude because he kept me waiting so long. At first, I thought I read that wrong, but I'm like, well, explains Peggy. There were times that he kept me waiting for 8 hours. I used to knit a lot of sweaters. Damn. It appears that during the break in the session, Andre Simone was at Ocean Way Studios recording his vocals for the track. Andre had reappeared in his life right around that time, and whenever people did reappear, the first thing he would do is go in and cut a track. I almost said cut a check. Cut a track. Reflected Susan Rogers. It could have been recorded with him in mind. I know that he spent a long time on it and was very proud of it.
Skip the next 2 paragraphs and go to Prince Told.
Okay. Prince told his version of reconnecting with Simone during an interview he did with MTV. I saw him in a discotheque one night and grabbed him by his shirt and said, "Come here, I got this hit." And Prince, you gotta see Prince do it. Come on, I got this hit. You know I got this hit, don't you? The Dance Electric. First of all, he didn't grab me by the lapels. Correct, Simone. One thing that Prince knows about me is, because he probably knows me better than a lot of people, you just don't grab me by the lapels. and you don't grab my guitar out my hand and start playing. Things like that are just not a reality. It definitely wasn't at a club or anything like that. He reached out and said, "Listen, I got this song." Once the connection was reestablished, Prince brought the master tape of the Dance Electric to Ocean Way Studios in Hollywood. We sat down, listened to it, and hung out. And he kind of gave me the whole rundown on it, where he was coming from with the track. So he actually left it there and just said, "Do what you feel, do what you do." To tell you the truth, even though there was other issues surrounding it, I think it was a beautiful thing because we got a chance to actually work together. And we hadn't done that in a long, long, long time. I think he honestly wanted to help me, reflected Simone, but on his terms. Once the tape arrived back at Sunset Sound, Peggy spent the rest of the session working on a mix. Status: the Dance Electric, 5 minutes and 44 seconds, would be released on Andre Simone's album AC on August 16th, 1985. And before that, on a single in July 1985. Prince's own version was, y'all say that word, posthumously released on Purple Rain Deluxe in July of 2017.
So go ahead.
I'm curious, do you prefer one version over the other, or? No,
I love them both. I love them, and because they're different enough to love both. I mean, I'm gonna be honest with you. I'm a sap for that damn song. Just when I hear "Good Morning, People," oh hell, it's over, baby.
Yeah,
the funk about to happen. When you hear "Good Morning," the funk about to happen. Now, I do want to say this because I was guilty of this as well, and I'm trying not to be overly nostalgic. I really love that damn MTV video for a lot of different reasons. Just because we all were at an age when we saw it in real time. One of the first times we saw Prince talk, and one of the first times we saw Prince. And I hate to put it this way, I was trying to be real black. I mean, see these cufflinks, right? Let's be frank. If we can't be frank, but I'll tell you what, I get why the first part of that statement kind of rubbed Andre the wrong way. Like, hey, I got this hit. But what we forget about is how Prince ended that conversation. If you remember at the end, because it's Prince talking to Andre, and he's like, "You ain't mad at nothing? I don't care what they think." So it was for Prince, he was making up with his friend. And I would just like for people to go look at that interview again with that in mind. And even in real time in 85, 86, whenever that interview was, that touched me because I knew about, we knew about the breakup by then. We knew Andre had been in the band. We knew that they probably weren't on the best of terms. And for me, that was like, oh, damn, these dudes can solve their problems, can bury the hatchet, for lack of a better term. So I know I laugh and focus on to come get this hit. But there's the second part of that when you really genuinely see Prince talking about this record reconnected him with his friend. And I wish that we could concentrate on that part of the statement as much as to come get this hit and come to your point. I love both versions. I'll shut up.
Yeah, man, that's what the song symbolizes to me. It's just like the reconnection of friends. Like I don't, so I like both versions, but like when I think about it, I just think about, because like you said, by this point, we had heard all the stories about them growing up, about the split, and the split kept coming up in all these press releases. Like it was a lot. It kept being mentioned a lot, and like Andre was looking like, like everyone else was kind of having their blow up moment. Like Morris was having his, Jesse was having his, Jimmy and Terry, I know were having theirs, and it was looking like Andre made a mistake. With leaving and not having any type of I guess success like they had, and so like doing this kind of putting back on good graces. So that's how I saw it.
I saw both, and I like both versions. I do prefer the Prince version, but I'll rock with either one of them.
I'm curious why.
To me, there's just always an authentic sort of feel. It's hard to describe. It's just when I hear Prince doing it, Prince just doing Prince to me. When I hear Andre doing it, and it's dope, but he is interpreting Prince. To me, I wonder if Andre did the song, it would be something different. It would sound a slightly different style, and I like Andre's style.
Yeah, the reason why I ask is because, like, most times I wonder if, because I've heard a song for the first time, like a version of a song for the first time. I'll give you an example. Like, I prefer Morris Day's "Gigolos Get Lonely Too" as compared to the Prince version, because I believe Morris. I don't believe Prince when he sings those lyrics. But when it comes to the Dance Electric, which is, again, probably in my top 10 of Prince songs, and Prince has written a lot of songs. So that just shows you, I'm just trying to explain to you how much this song means to me. I actually can't call it. Like, I love Andre's version, even though that was the first version that I personally heard. And I love Prince's. So I don't get the difference, but it's curious to hear that you prefer Prince's. So thank you for that. Continue on. I'm sorry for cutting you off, Michael.
No, and I just think the comments Prince said on that interview, I believe I asked Andre about this when we interviewed, did he take that as a diss kind of? And he was kind of like, yeah, that was kind of funny style. And to me, it came off to me because Andre Simone was the shit. So I was just like, why would you say like you're gonna give him a hit? Because Andre had hits, and I don't know if the Jody had dropped yet, but obviously I think they were recording these all at the same time, and Andre was about to drop the bomb on the game. Right. Jody Watley does not get the attention and love. When that album dropped, that shit blew up, man. That was like looking for a new love. They had the streets in the chokehold.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah. I agree with you 100%. You are right.
Yeah, they are. He doesn't get credit, for doing what later became a trend in having a credible MC like Rakim.
Yeah, he started that
on a funk track or R&B track. Like that was the first one of like credible. Started again. Like that was done like right, like
made a lane for TLC to have a career. In my opinion, T-Boss's vocal directly sort of linear from Jody Watley.
Yeah.
So Andre was about to blow it up. So to say all that to say, but I understand. I appreciate it because they were boys and they were separated. So like Celie, it was still done in love. But I think Andre said it best. It was done on Prince's terms. To show you what kind of cat that was. But the song is banging. You know what I'm saying? I wish it was bigger.
Yeah.
I do too.
And this has nothing to do with anything. It's just this is in my head, and this always comes in my head when we had this discussion. Over and over and over again. What are we doing here? Anyway, that's it.
Okay.
I just that's in my head. I think Andre Simone, that's what I think of.
Oh man, what are we doing here? Yeah, I do remember that video. Yeah. What are we doing here? Hey man, Kelly's eyes. Hey,
Kelly's eyes. All right, Ricky, read Friday, May 17th, 1985.
All right. The Dance Electric Mix, Sunset Sound Studio 3, 7:30 p.m., 2:30 a.m. Ooh, short session. Booked, lockout. Producer Prince, artist Prince, engineer Peggy Mack. Read the quote, skip the quote, skipping the quote.
Read the quote.
It wasn't like that song wasn't a I'm sorry, was a dog. That was a funky ass song. Hell yeah, that's a funky ass song. Andre Simone. Peggy did some additional mixing of the Dance Electric, and by the end of the session, she created a version for Prince. Note, the following day, Prince flew back to Minneapolis. It is possible that another mixing session took place on Monday, May 20th, 1985 at Sunset Sound, and without Prince, with Peggy Mack overseeing it.
Awesome. All right. So I'm gonna try to get us on time.
T-Boss has a version still a thrill.
Yes.
Yeah.
What?
Look at Mike even about to do this. Okay. Hey man, do your Googles, brother.
I know you're trying to get us out on time, but I want to.
Yes.
Does anybody know the critic Scott Poston Bryant, the music critic?
Yeah.
So remember we talked a long time ago about this show that came on VH1, 4 on the Floor, about the journalist who would talk about songs. Who was on VH. I think it was on for a year. I think they did maybe 1 or 2 seasons. Anyway, during that time, he said something. I just want to get you guys' reaction to it because you and I hearing this in real time. But when Crazy Sexy Cool came out, so whatever year Crazy Sexy Cool came out, Scott Poston Bryant, and he said this on VH1, he said, Crazy Sexy Cool is the album we've all been waiting on Prince to make, and TLC beat him to it.
I remember.
And I wondered how that rubbed me the wrong way. Although I like that album. What say y'all? Like I said, I know y'all didn't hear this in real time, but I remember when he said that rubbed me the wrong way. But and that didn't make me not like the album. I just didn't appreciate him saying it.
Well, I'm gonna go first because I gotta go. That's some bull, but I mean, I can get why he probably would say that. I don't know how deep of a Prince fan that he was, you know what I'm saying? But, maybe he said that because they threw the Prince cover on there of like, If I Was Your Girlfriend.
And they didn't do it right, by the way.
And they outside of the singles, they had a few other good songs, like Case of the Fake People or something like that. I think is the name of the song that was kind of funky and grooving and stuff like that.
Waterfalls.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? But him saying that was a Prince album that like they made a Prince album that Prince wanted to make, nah, because I'm a producer songwriter guy, and like I like a lot of stuff, like a lot of stuff that I bought, it wasn't so much for the artist, it was for who wrote the stuff on the album and who did things. So like by him saying that Prince made, like they made an album, I'm hearing like you're saying Babyface, Dallas Austin, then Organized Noise made a Prince record that Prince wanted to make, which I know all those people were probably influenced by Prince greatly. So, that's what I'm hearing. Like when he says that, you know what I'm saying? I think that's some bull. Okay. I gotta go. I see y'all next week.
Oh man. All right. I was just gonna add to what he said.
Yeah, go ahead. I can stay for a few more minutes.
The thing is, I think that the essence of when people think about how they feel when they hear certain Prince records, not that it's Prince would do that, but I think it does. I can see how he could say that because of the reason you said. I think all the musicians who played on that record are deeply influenced by Prince. I think some of the songs you can hear, oh, this person must love Prince. And there's the obvious stuff, and then I think there's just the tonal things and the things that's going on in the music that, I think Prince even sees that. Like, okay, I see what they're doing. I see what Dallas Austin, and then you find out Dallas is he breed essentially.
Yeah,
he's just a hip hop guy, but that's what he listens to. Of course, Babyface drenched in Prince.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And
you ain't breed.
And yeah, he breathed all the way. Breathe. The song Waterfalls, in my opinion, I mean, when that first came out, I was like, yo, this on some parade horns. A lot of people were saying that sounds like some Prince influence. To me, it's dripping Prince. That to me, it was like Untitled or something. It was just one of them songs where you can hear the influence that Prince has on modern R&B.
Right.
Is always going to be there. And I think that album does. Now when I think of T-Boz and you saying, well, she did Still a Thrill. They did a Prince song on this. They also did Get It Up on the soundtrack. They're obviously Prince disciples.
Right.
So to me, I could see why, and I can see the energy. It does have a Prince kind of energy. You know, as a Prince fan, you don't ever want to give nobody no credit to, I ain't like, but you can hear the Prince-ness in that. I think it's a level of seduction. It's a level of sexiness that this album is. It's a sensual sort of thing that I think that comes through on this album that was not on that first album they had.
Right.
So I can hear it. I can see what he's saying.
Okay.
All right. Take us on out, Michael Dean.
Oh, we're over?
Yeah, I want to keep us. It's the summertime. We got to go do things.
Damn. Just like that. No, we didn't have the.
That's probably us saying you ain't got to go home.
You got to get out of here.
Wow. Okay. Well, man, another great show. Once again, Celie, Ricky, D'Angela, the audience, beautiful conversations. What can I say? This was a ball, man. So work it like a job. We'll see you later. And Mom said we gotta go.
Yeah, we gotta go. Yeah, she ain't do that.
Turn that off.
Y'all got to go outside.
Yeah, get this kid out of the house.